stay filling. One brotherhood, one ship. Stay bearded, stay filling. It's BV, it's BV, BV, it's BV,
Yeah.
it's BV, it's BV,
BV.
it's BV,
BV.
it's BV.
It's BV and Jellified, Jimmy Beam and Bly. Reaching high as where we reach, yo, as high as to the stars. Beats in the villain Jeep, vibrating other cars. Whose world is this? Yo, we say the world is ours. So we grow beards, no fear. Photos so clear, take another shot, so to speak. Yeah, more beer. BV worldwide, put a fist to the sky. Cheers, cheers, New Year's, dope rhyme, good vibes. My crew speaks power, Chi-Town bleeds power. Knowledge, wisdom, and truth in the final hour. Respect, loyalty, family, charity speaks power. Here the village brotherhood speaks honor. Forwards and onwards, stay villain to the end. I will never shave again because my beard is not a trend. I represent excellence, leadership, and never follow. I'm a BBC member, yo, Lieutenant of Chicago.
One brotherhood, one ship. Stay bearded, stay filling. One brotherhood, one ship. Stay bearded, stay filling. It's BV, it's BV, BV, it's BV, it's BV, it's BV, it's BV, it's BV.
Yo, all I see.
Good afternoon, evening, night, and everything. Happy Friday and Merry Christmas to everybody who is here joining us live. Merry Christmas. Ho, 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 guys. Oh, I didn't know if I was going to do this live stream thing here tonight, but man, I wanted to. It's Christmas. And yeah, good times, good times. You know what's funny is this is the first time that I'm actually trying something new here. Well, I try something new, it seems like all the time. But I'm trying something new here today, audio-wise, because you'll notice no headphones, because I'm trying these in-ear things today, and so far I'm not so sure if I'm liking them. They don't nearly have the depth to the sound that I'm used to. So we'll see how this goes and try it out and see what we get. It's not super high quality. It's not like the $300 ear set or $500 or $1,000 set you get, but I wanted to try it out and see how this goes. So welcome, guys. Welcome to episode 63 of The Heart of a Villain, the podcast and live stream devoted to the bearded villains worldwide brotherhood and the lives they are changing all over the world. My camera is doing something kind of funky here. Okay, guys, Merry Christmas. Oh, what a day today has been. It's been a long day. I don't know if you have kids, you know what I'm talking about. If you don't have kids, try to remember back when you were a kid and how early you used to get up. Now, thankfully, our kids are old enough now that we don't get up at 5 a.m. anymore for Christmas. I don't think I actually had to get up before 9 today, which was weird, but pretty nice. So did the whole present thing. Yeah. We'll get into that in just a few minutes. I'm curious. I did a little poll out online early this week, asking people what their favorite Christmas presents were, and we'll go over some of those too here in a few minutes. But if you're watching live right now, I'd be curious to see popping in the chats there what your favorite Christmas present was that you got this year. I've seen so far. We had some cool stuff come through. A puppy Andy Trent had. But Jay, of course, well, he had socks. Socks and gloves. Sharissa, socks and oven mitts from Santa. Very nice to see. Rob says he wrote a letter to Santana, hoped for a new guitar. I guess that didn't come to fruition. But Merry Christmas, guys. This is going to be a shorter. It's not going to be that shortest episode ever that we did once before. But it's not going to be real long. I don't want to keep people away from their families. And unfortunately, if you have to work, whatever it is you're doing. But I just wanted to test some things out, run in and stop in. And I had to keep up the schedule. That was the big thing. I had to keep up the schedule that we've come to love, and that is Friday nights, regardless. Friday nights, regardless. So we are here, and it's a holiday. But guys, I know there's a handful of you here watching, and I do appreciate you for being here live. Those of you who are checking in later after the fact, in any one of major podcast platforms, thank you guys so much. This is not going to be any life-altering podcast episode. We're just going to talk a little bit about Christmas gifts and what Christmas has been like for all of us. So hopefully you'll continue to tune in. And in the coming weeks, we've got some good ones coming up. This is episode 63. We're going to be rounding up into 70s here before too long. And I can just see that light at the end of the tunnel, man. We're going to have 100 episodes in before too long. So about 37 more weeks, if my math is correct. But, or so. But guys, Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas. If this is your first time viewing what we are doing here, by all means, if you're here on here on YouTube, click that subscribe button and the little bell thing so you are notified every time that we go live here. Good evening and Merry Christmas Ty to you too. Sharissa, looking festive in the red and green. Yeah, I had to do something a little different, going with the red and green today. Makes sense, doesn't it? So, I was thinking back, guys, and everybody that has had kids, you know what that's like, to have to do either the late night or early morning putting together of a specific toy. And I remember a few years back now. This goes back probably, oh man, it seems like it was just yesterday, but it was probably closer to 7 or 8 years ago, I guess, maybe now. But the Christmas present from hell. And this thing was, let me see if I can tune in some, we'll get some music in the background here. I don't have any Christmas music handy, but anyway, the Christmas present from hell that we had to put together. Anybody who has ever had one of those seemingly easy to put together Christmas presents that you're like, I'm not so sure I'm going to need the instructions on this one. But then once you start working on it, you realize I'm going to need those instructions. And this was just a frame piece of aluminum that had a basketball return on it. It was one of those little dual basketball hoop things. And as a matter of fact, I'll show you what the type of thing that it looked like. You'll probably get a kick out of this. But this is what this little thing was. Something like this. And the instructions for this type of item, when you put it together, are absolutely horrendous. Because there's one very, very specific issue. And that is that each one of those posts you see that holds this little basketball return game, that holds this thing together. Each one of those posts, they have to be put together in very, very specific order. And you cannot deviate from that order, not even once. But here's the trick. It doesn't tell you what order you have to do it in. So myself, my wife, my brother-in-law, we spent 3 or 4 hours one night trying to put this thing together, and we just could not get the pieces to match up. Couldn't figure out why. And finally, we kept going back and forth. We went back and forth on the internet trying to figure out, how in the world we're going to fit this thing together, because the instructions just don't tell you. We tried every manipulation we could. We tried strong-arming it. We tried everything. And so finally, we had a friend that I put one of those all points bulletins out on Facebook. And a friend of ours reached out and said, I have a friend who did one of those a few years ago, and here's what they said. And it was this long, drawn-out explanation, but they knew the trick. And the trick was specifically that this one piece had to be put together before this other piece was. And then you could not put those two pieces together that were as individuals until you put another piece together. So it was a 3-part process. If you tried anything else, and this is not one of those things that made sense at all, but after about 5.5 hours, we were finally able to get this stupid thing together. And worst Christmas putting together story ever. So if you've ever been tempted by getting one of these, don't. If you've ever thought about it at all, don't do it. Don't do it. That's all I can say. Don't get one of those. Just stick to the play centers that have them and enjoy them that way, because that thing is, oh my gosh, it was the worst experience. I wouldn't wish that on anybody. Even my worst enemy, I don't think I would say, hey, go ahead and try that thing, because biggest waste of a night ever. And that was one of those nights where we got I think it was maybe less than an hour of sleep before we had to wake back up. Terrible experience. So stay away from those. Stay completely away from those things. So going back, guys, on what people's favorite this is kind of interesting to me. Finding out what people's general their favorite Christmas memory or favorite Christmas toy was. And I didn't create a slide per se for this, but it was very interesting to see what some of our friends, our brothers, and everybody out there said. We've got everything from Legos to one of our brothers said, I used to get the Hess trucks from my grandfather. How cool is that? Those are kind of collectible things for back in the day. That would have been very cool to see. One of our brothers who is here all the time, he said to us, my Sega. Ooh, my Sega. We were all big fans of our individual gaming systems, I'm sure, from back in the day. I was always an Atari 2600 friend. That was when the Sega came out, I didn't know much about it. I didn't probably give it its props or anything. I was stuck in the Atari 2600 world, to my detriment, for sure. My very first Mongoose BMX. Yes. I'm going to give props. I'm going to shout this one out because our brother Papa, Patchhog, Atari 2600. Yes. He's in my game. He's in my ball game right there. Atari 2600. That was, and what's funny is you can still find these things out there. They're available on eBay or someplace else. As a matter of fact, I was just looking for one, and it was, the other day I was looking and I found one it looked like it was the exact model of 2600 and the entire game pack set that we used to have. I think we had 50 or 60 games at one time, and I wasn't one of those that had over 100, but we had 50, 60 games at one time. And I'm scrolling through the library on this eBay listing, and I'm like, yes, we had that. And it was like they had my entire library. And it was a buy it now for $150. Boy, you know how tempted I was to chime in there and go, how about if I give you $89 maybe? I get that thing. And I'm sure that my kids today would laugh hilariously at me. They're of the Xbox and PlayStation generation, of course. So, but yeah, what are these little squares? Why are these characters only moving unilaterally, only horizontally and vertically? But those are the good times, right? Good times of video games. So the Atari 2600 was a big one for me. Never forget that. I played that thing long into my high school days, actually, just because of the nostalgia purposes of it. As a matter of fact, I think I took an Atari 2600 with me to college. And that was back when the Nintendo was even out there. So that was pretty cool. Let's see. We had other answers like underwear. I don't know if underwear is your favorite, but hey, whatever. We also had some very, very honorable and serious responses. One of our brothers said he was hoping for an end to the pandemic so he can see his family and friends and brothers again. Yes, absolutely, don't we all? We all feel that way. One of our brothers down in Florida says, a new Harley Davidson. Nice. Very nice. We just had another one that said, happiness with my family and my brothers. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. A PS5. But seriously, I'd be happy with just a stress-free Christmas day. I'll be curious. I'm going to reach out to that brother and find out if he was able to get a PS5 this year. I'm guessing he probably did not. But that would have been very cool to see if he was able to find a PS5 getting into his hands, of course. Another one of our brothers said one of his favorites was an AR-15. Look out. AR-15. That would be a very cool present. Of course, that would be one that I'd have to buy myself, I think, if I were able to get one of those, for sure. So I do appreciate those of you who did reach out and respond to those questions I had there. Jay asks, did you ever have the ET game? No. I played it at a friend's house, and I'm going to agree with, well, I'm not going to agree completely with Rob there. Excuse me. Rob says worst game ever. No, I won't say it was the worst game ever. It was pretty close, though. There were a couple of other ones that were right on the cusp of being worst game ever, I think. But I won't give that to E.T. I used to love, and it was high tech when it first came out. You remember the Empire Strikes Back game? Where you had to float around in the snow speeder and you had to fly around and shoot out and kill the snow walkers, the AT-ATs, but you had to hit them in a very specific little box blinking area. Otherwise, you'd get destroyed. Never a very easy thing to do, but good times nonetheless. Actually, I had two, and it was funny. I had actually forgotten about a couple of my all-time favorites until I saw that eBay listing that had several listed in there. I was like, oh my gosh, I completely forgot about that game. So there was one that always made me feel like I was in Star Wars, but not Star Wars. So it was like generic Star Wars. I'm going to get a drink here. See. Okay. So they had a game called Star Master. Anybody remember Star Master? That game, you'd be floating through space and it had the stars flying past you, kind of like when you'd go into hyperspace or something like that, or light speed in Star Wars. I would love that. I always loved that one. Not a very easy game at points, but it was fun. And then I'm going to take this hat off. I'm getting Shveddy. Yeah, but I also remember my two favorite games, absolute favorite games, were one called Mega Mania and one called Decathlon. Anybody ever play those games? Mega Mania or Decathlon? Mega Mania was kind of a asteroids type game, Galaga asteroids type thing, where everything would float at you and try and shoot you down while you were at the static part of the bottom of the screen going side to side. That was really cool. But then there was Decathlon, which you can probably surmise what Decathlon was all about. Decathlon, you had to, the little singular joystick that you used, you had to actually rotate that thing side to side, left to right, as fast as you could, and that made the guy run. So the faster you moved your hand back and forth, the faster he ran. And we used to always have competitions with friends to see who could do that the fastest. And it was always fun. But the cool thing about that one was if your points were high enough, and it was a very difficult thing to do, you could take a picture of the TV screen and send the picture in, and they would send you a patch if you were a gold, medal, or silver. I'm going to switch out my headphones here for a second. All right, guys. Sorry about that. Appreciate you being patient with me here as I mess with my audio equipment for the night. So I'm not so sure I'm not so sure about these in-ear monitors that I'm trying. I went back to the headphones. I don't know if I just had them in the wrong size or what, but they're customizable, and I'm not so sure they customized to my ears properly. So they're giving me earaches. Just in, 10 minutes? 15 minutes, whatever they've been on? So, yeah. But, yeah, so such a cool thing to look back on your favorite toys. And I want to show you this. I think I included, what was this one? Let's see. I know I made another overlay here. Oh, yeah. Okay. All right. So this, guys, check this one out. This was these two things. It's one slide that has two pictures. These were my two absolute favorite toys for a very significant portion of my young childhood when I was small. And this thing was the coolest thing ever, and we kept them forever. And those of you who were children of the late 70s, early 80s probably remember these. The Stretch Incredible Hulk and the Stretch Armstrong, where you could pull those. They had like a jelly inside them, and you could pull them to who knows how far apart before you finally broke the things. Those were so cool. And, of course, then being the kids that we are, you try to pull those things apart. You try to pull them so far and just test the limits of it to see how far you can pull it before you break it. But then, if you're like me, a inspiring young lad, you're like, I wonder what else I can do with this, right? So after I had the Hulk for long enough, I'd probably had this thing for a couple years, and I was playing with it one day and stretching on it, and I just was like, I wonder what it takes to really destroy this thing. And so I would take like a needle and stab it with it just to see if the stuff would ooze out. And sure enough, it oozed out if you squeezed it. Go figure. But at least I got to figure out what it was actually in there, and it was probably some sort of toxic gel, knowing the time frame that it was made back in the 70s. But yeah, who knows? That could have been nasty for the childhood growing up. I'm sure there were all sorts of warnings on those things. I don't, of course, remember them, but I'm sure they had to put all sorts of warnings on them. Do not chew, do not ingest, all that stuff. But yeah, that was, those two things were some of my favorites for back in the day. Loved the Stretch Armstrong and the Stretch Hulk. They actually had like I think they had like a Stretch, like a green monster too. He was like a scaly monster thing. I think that one of my friends had. I didn't have him, but if memory serves, there was one of those guys too. I'm not sure 100% on that, but yeah. So I'm excited to see you guys were on the same page there. Jay, I always wanted to Stretch Armstrong. I hear you, boy. Stretch was pretty awesome, Rob says. Yeah, absolutely. Jay, we're talking about the games. I played some in the arcade, but I wasn't really a game guy. What kind of a guy were you, Jay? If you weren't a game guy. Rob says he had the Galactica on the Game Boy. Ooh, you were fancy. You were fancy. If you had a Game Boy back in the day, oh, I envied you. That was the first like handheld gaming device per se. And those of you that had that, even if it was that little LCD black and white, mostly gray screen, if you had one of those, oh, you were living the life, man. You were the thing, man. I always wanted to be like you. If you were lucky enough to have one of those, oh boy. My earbuds are falling off of me onto the floor now. So yeah, such a cool thing to look back on some of these presents and the things that were your favorites from back in the day, guys. Keeps those memories alive. Absolutely. Music nerd. Okay. Music nerd. That's okay. Jay says he's a music nerd. we all love our music groups. Were you? I'm guessing here, but being in Canada, Jay, were you a Rush fan, or was Rush too early for you? Or what were the big rock groups that you absolutely loved back for your music nerdness? I'm curious. Curious. All right. Well, guys, I don't have a whole lot more to say other than just to wish you guys a Merry Christmas. Regularly scheduled programming coming up in the coming weeks, for sure. I don't really have specific preview guests to let you know about. I've got several that I'm in the process of lining up for the next several weeks. So I'm excited to hear about that. I'm crossing my fingers and hoping that, oh no. Jay responds, nope, he's new wave and punk. Okay, Jay, we would not have been friends. We would not have been friends, bro. I was all about the metal and the rock in the 80s. Late 70s, early 80s. I could live with some of the old other stuff that was around in the 70s, but 80s was all about what was considered to be heavy metal then, which is probably just considered rock now. But Rob, that's okay if he is. If he's a fan of the Celine Dion club, that's fine. It's all right. We won't hate for him. We're not going to hate on him for that. So, guys, I hope you were able to get in on some of that stuff that just recently cleared the shelves, where we had the Christmas patch for the Bearded Villains North Mississippi. I don't know if they're still selling this, but if you're interested, absolutely check it out. They might have some left for you. I haven't heard, I never did hear a specific date when they were stopping selling these. So hit up the Bearded Villains North Mississippi chapter, because they might still have some of those guys around. That would be really cool if you can help them out for that, for sure. If they're still out there. I'm not sure if they are. All right. Oh, we got the comedians in the house tonight. Rob, despite what you've heard, my heart will not go on, Jay says. Oh, come on. You know you were singing that song with the rest of us, Titanic Years. You were all over that, I'm sure. Of course you were. So, I'm crossing my fingers, guys, and hoping that the Smoky Mountain event, their 3-year anniversary, is still going to go on. I know that there are certain areas of the country that are starting to kind of go crazy with some lockdown stuff right now. I know that the vaccine is being, distributed in various forms, different places, but we still have to be careful, obviously. And so I'm not 100% sure if, what's happening at different places. I've heard rumor that there are some places that in larger cities that are staying kind of locked down and limiting numbers. So hopefully by next week, I'll have some numbers for you. If you're interested in going to the Smoky Mountain event, they do have a chat for sure. But check out what they have to tell you, because I know that they've been planning real hard for this thing. And of course, we want this thing to happen for them for sure. All right. Well, guys, I would normally have I got to play the music at least, right? I would normally have a calendar of events here. But like I said, things are still so up in the air, I just don't know. What I do know is that we need to check back with our brothers, because January 9th, the weekend of January 9th, is supposed to be the Smoky Mountain 3rd year anniversary party. So we're gonna cross our fingers and hope that still happens. It's in, I want to say, East Ridge, in Tennessee. I think that's where it's at. I don't have my notes right here. But Papa says he was asked if he was going, and unfortunately he won't be going. Papa, hate to see that, buddy. Hate to see that. But like I said, I don't know if the numbers aren't good, if they're limiting numbers drastically. I would rather not try to force the trip either myself, just because I want to be able to go down and enjoy myself and not have to worry about can't we, or won't we, or will we be able to do something. So just going to have to keep our eyes out for that. Also, I know that coming up in February, we should probably hear some news on this probably in the next week or two. Specifics from the Southern Indiana Bearded Villains. They have their Polar Plunge coming up. It's going to be at the end of February. I want to say the 27th, I think, if memory serves. They're going to have their Polar Plunge in Southern Indiana, and they wanted to wait until Christmas, and I'm not sure if they were waiting till the New Year started to start sharing the information on that. But here in the next, like I said, here in the next week or so, we should get some info on that for the Bearded Villains Southern Indiana Polar Plunge. That's about it. I don't have any other worthwhile information to pass on of event-wise right now. I hope everybody had an incredible Christmas. If you haven't heard from some brothers, guys, in several days, don't hesitate to reach out to those guys. It's extremely important right now. The holidays are a bitch for some people. They really are. And we need to make sure that those brothers that we have not seen in chat, the ones that we would normally hear from, even if they gave us kind of a warning, even if they kind of said, hey, this Christmas is going to be rough on me. I need to step back for a few days or whatever. Give them their space, but make absolutely sure that they know you're there for them. And just make sure you're absolutely there for them, and make sure that they know that you're there for them. Give them the space that they need, but make sure they know you're there to talk or even to listen. Absolutely, mostly just to listen if you need to be. That's what I'm trying to do for the brothers out there, just to let them know, hey, I'm here for you. And if you need to shout, scream, or anything like that, I'm here for you. Absolutely. Guys, I wish I had a whole lot more for you, but I wanted to make a short one. I just wanted to keep the track record up of Friday nights and doing our live thing. So I appreciate all of you guys for tuning in. Those of you who are listening on podcast platforms, I do apologize for it not being the standard thing, but I think you understand with Christmas and all the way it is. It's going to be a slightly altered podcast, and that's what it is. So, guys, that's going to wrap up episode 63 and the Christmas episode. This is actually my first Christmas episode. I didn't actually have a Christmas episode last year. We went through the holidays and we didn't do one. We just kind of took a few weeks off and came back in January. So this year I wanted to stay tight to the schedule. And even if I had to do it a little bit later in the evening, I wanted to stay tight to what our prescribed schedule is. And that's what we're doing. So unless something crazy happens in the world, I will be here on Friday nights to get your podcast out to you in some format. It's what I'm going to do. It's what I want to do. So I'm going to continue to do that. Man. All right. I'm going to kick that song back off again because we talked all the way right through it. Guys, that's going to wrap up episode 63 of The Heart of a Villain. Remember, you can still buy those shirts, patches, pins, all the good stuff, poker chips at theheartofavillain.simplecast.com. I do have a few of the old podcast shirts available still in stock, just a handful and some of the smaller sizes, nothing larger than XL. I'll be putting another order together for those later in the year if you're interested in the original shirts. Otherwise, you can buy the other ones, get a pre-order in on those, or you can just get shirts, patches, pins, whatever. Also, you can listen to all other podcast episodes, all 62 of them, at theheartofavillain.simplecast.com. That's where they're hanging out, guys. Guys, remember, as always, man, it's okay not to be okay. I can't say it enough. We lost 5 brothers. We lost 5 brothers this year. And thanks so much to Papa for pointing that out. So important for us to remember that. It's been a rough year all the way around. That's why it's important for us to be here for each other. So remember, as we always say, that the heart of a villain never stops beating, guys. As Jay once so aptly said, I want to challenge you guys to always be the villain that the world needs you to be. 100%. We're going through this song third time. It's the third time here. So, guys, like I said, can't say it enough. Remember, it's okay not to be okay. If you are hurting, please find a brother to talk to. Remember, it's okay not to be okay. So for now, have a great weekend. Have a great holiday season. I'll be back next week. Enjoy the week ahead. Enjoy the rest of your Christmas day. Do what you got to do, guys. Be the men you're meant to be. That's right. Get out there and kill it. Have a great weekend, guys. Enjoy the week ahead. Take care. Stay safe.
From my chapter to yours, we're all one, no borders. Don't get it twisted like contortionists in close quarters. My crew has more heads than peeps cleaning up on borders. When Blah, Jelly, and I, we come together, transformers. So when we meet up, handshakes, brews, and salutes. Every brother is different, fingerprints and attributes. One thing in common with the bearded up.